Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Income is the Outcome, where we believe it's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined in the studio by the founder and president of the Whistler Agency, Tim Whistler. We've got a great show for you today. The title of this episode is How to Detox Your Retirement. You're going to want to stick with us to hear what Tim has to say about that and how you can remove those harmful taxes from your retirement. Tim, my friend, so good to be here with you. How are you this week?
I'm well, Kristen. It's always great to be here with you as well.
Well, thank you. Well, this is going to be a really fun conversation. And to our viewers, yes, you did hear that correctly. We're using this term, detox your retirement. Similarly, we want to detox our lives from harmful substances. Well, here's the reality. A lot of folks don't realize just how harmful taxes can be to their success in retirement. So we're using this play on words, just like you want a detox plan for your life, you want a detox plan for your retirement. And Tim, you know, we always say at the beginning of the show, it's not about how much you earn, it's how much you keep.
Right.
And taxes are one of the biggest detriments to what folks get to actually keep, right?
That's exactly right. When we came up with that phrase several years ago, it basically has a dual meaning behind it. Not only are we talking about, trying to protect our hard-earned assets from any type of market volatility, but also too, when we follow the rules, like many of us do, of deferring taxes until later by contributing to pre-tax 401ks or traditional IRAs, now we're still trying to create a plan where we create an income plan where we can keep as much of that as we can,
right,
even though we know those taxes are going to come due in retirement.
Yes, and so if we continue this analogy, we could say that a lot of folks are headed into retirement with a tax hangover.
Yes.
And yet they have no idea. So explain that verbiage a little bit. What do we mean when we talk about having this tax hangover?
You know, Kristen, I always like to give credit where credit's due, right? So Webster defined hangover as something that remains from what is past. So if we think about that in terms of what we've done in our retirement savings, right? Most people have the majority of their dollars in a tax-deferred account. So you have contributed to a 401k for all those years. You've contributed to a traditional IRA. Well, you were able to get some tax breaks on those years of making contributions to them, but now here comes the IRS. So now all of a sudden you talk about a tax hangover, here we are.
Yes, and so most people have the majority of their wealth saved up in these tax-deferred accounts, right? 401ks, or I should say traditional 401ks, traditional 403bs, traditional IRAs. All that money has not yet been taxed. Right. Now it comes to retirement, especially when you hit required minimum distribution age, which we'll talk about, where whether you like it or not, you've got to pay tax on that money, right?
This is exactly right. It's here. It's one of the things that we just have to be mindful of, and that's why we are so adamant about explaining to folks who are watching and folks who are listening on the radio and folks who are listening to our podcast and maybe reading our book. This is a different time of life, right? We have to go from that transition of building wealth now to distributing wealth. And once we start to distribute wealth, here comes a whole gamut of challenges we didn't even realize existed, but they will impact us. So that's why we constantly encourage folks to give us a call and sit down so we can provide that complimentary written financial plan where we talk a lot about taxes and how we can avoid that hangover.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think what's interesting too is there's a common misconception that a lot of folks have been led to believe, and I know I've heard this my whole life too, right? We were conditioned to put that money in those tax-deferred accounts, and we were told this was a really good thing for us because you get a tax break, the year you put the money in, the money's gonna grow tax-deferred, and then when you go to pull it out in retirement, you should be in a lower tax bracket. But here's the thing, why is that actually not the case, and why is that a common misconception? I think a lot of it comes from legislation. Like for example, let's go back in history, and again, I apologize, I get nerdy about this stuff, right? But this is my passion. I want to be a reputable and a credible advisor, especially when we're trying to talk about things like this. So if we go back to 1978, there was a piece of legislation that was passed called the Revenue Act. And back in 1978, the whole premise of Congress passing this act was to say, look, you're going to pay less taxes in retirement. Okay, well, let's look at what's gone on through history. Okay, first and foremost, what was the highest tax bracket back in 1978? And I've got documents on this, but if you want to look it up, there actually was a tax bracket of 70% in 1978. Let's also look at the deficit. Back in 1970, it wasn't even $1 trillion. Now I say $1 trillion like it's a dime. Obviously, I'm not trying to belittle that. But
our deficit was nowhere near then where it is today. Now look what's happened with every other piece of legislation that's passed since 1978. It seems like every time they talk about some type of a tax or some type of a law, it'll impact your taxes in retirement. So therefore, things are different today than they were back in 1978, but we still have that misconception of saying, well, I'm no longer going to be making this from a salary, I'm going to probably be living off of this. That very well may be true, but you still have the element of taxes, because now look what else is happening. We already talked about people having most of their dollars in tax-deferred accounts. So now they got to pay taxes on that. But what else is happening? Social Security, pensions, right? Maybe some income from some investment. So in other words, now you've got the culmination of all these different types of assets that are out there, and most of the time they'll generate taxes for us. And it can be very, very overwhelming and surprising.
Well, and I think the other thing is people might think, well, I won't be making this, so I'll only be living off of this. But I don't think most folks want to lower their standard of living or their lifestyle in retirement. That's the other challenge, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. And that's why when we sit down with folks, it's the statement. We'll get to the statements. What I want to first understand is, what does retirement mean to you? What do you want to do in retirement? You've got dreams, aspirations, ideas that you want to utilize in your free time as a retiree. And then we'll get to the statements and understand, okay, here's what we want to do in retirement, Tim. Here's the assets that we have. Okay, perfect. That's what we're going to use to create that customized written plan for you, because, again, our entire show is called Income is the Outcome. That's what retirement's all about. You've got to create income for retirement, but you might want to have a plan to create the most efficient withdrawal strategy in retirement.
Yes, which brings us to this concept of RMDs, those required minimum distributions. Why don't you spend a few minutes just illustrating the impact that those can have? Because, you know, you and I have both talked about this off air too, how often folks have no idea that they have a tax bill as big as they have looming in their retirement that's contributing to this tax hangover.
That's right. And, you know, so RMDs, required minimum distributions, this is the IRS simply saying, okay, all these years you have received tax deductions for making contributions to pre-tax 401ks and traditional IRAs. You get the breaks then, but now you have the bill coming due. So an RMD really is based upon your age. So for example, if you're born between 1951 and 1959, you will expect to have RMDs due when you turn 73. If you're born in 1960 and later, your RMD age will be 75. All right, so we've talked about this on the show as well. The wonderful benefit that I have of being a part of Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is the fact that we walk through tax planning every time we get together. So we kind of look at this by saying, okay, we know the RMDs are coming due, so let's do some retirement or required minimum distribution planning, if you will, ahead of time, because that tax bill will be a little bit, you know, I think larger than most people will expect.
Yeah, for sure. And whether you need the money or not, right? You're going to have to withdraw it. You're going to have to pay that tax on it.
That's exactly right. Whether you need the income or not, you have to take the withdrawal, and then we can talk about what should we do with it afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. And this is why you always say, and I don't want to steal your thunder, because this is a great, what's that sentence you say about people's IRAs? Your
IRA is an IOU to the IRS. And that's what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're going to spend the rest of today's show obviously talking about how to detax your retirement. We want you to be able to get these harmful substances out of your retirement, if you will. And, you know, what would be your encouragement to someone watching? Because I think a lot of folks, it's awareness is the first step, right, to understanding that there's even a problem that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and you know, we try to take the approach of saying, look, let's try to stay ahead of things. If we can avoid a surprise or regret, I think that's a win right there. So if you know you've got a pre-tax 401k, if you know you've got traditional IRA dollars, even yet on top of that, you might have some inherited IRA dollars coming your way at some point down the road too. The point of it is, folks, is to simply understand, and like Kristen said, be aware. The tax man is coming, and he's going to take his share accordingly. We don't know what that share is going to be because it's truly all based upon what we call legislative risk. So let's sit down, let's have the conversation, let's unpack the details from it, and walk away with an RMD plan as well as a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy for retirement.
Wonderful. Tim, very well said. Thank you so much. And to our viewers at home, to get a hold of that plan, all you need to do is reach out, and you can do so in one of two ways. Simply call 888-992-7829, or if you'd rather connect online, just scan that QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member member of the team from the Whistler Agency will reach out to connect with you to schedule your time to come in and receive your complimentary written financial plan from Tim and the team. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, Tim is going to be sharing with you a very special resource that you can actually access and in real time see what your potential tax hangover might be in retirement. But we're not going to leave you hanging there. We're going to share some solutions for you on how to detax your retirement right after this.
Too many people enter retirement without a plan or a tax strategy and end up paying the price. Every dollar you save on taxes is a dollar that can help secure your retirement. At the Whistler Agency, we specialize in creating financial strategies that include smart tax planning. It's not about quick fixes or magic formulas. It's about building a comprehensive plan. We're offering a complimentary portfolio review and tax strategy session. To get you started, scan the QR code to reserve a spot on our calendar, and you'll be glad you did. Do you own an annuity? Are you aware of what type of annuity you own? For years, annuities have been a cornerstone of retirement planning, but they're not all created equal, and your current annuity might not be serving your retirement goals. With rising interest rates, that could mean better guarantees and better benefits for you. In short, potentially more income. Is your annuity up to date? See if your old annuity measures up. Call now for your complimentary annuity review.
Well, welcome back to Income is the Outcome. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Tim Whistler, founder and president of the Whistler Agency, and we're so glad you're joining us today. If you're just tuning in, today's episode is all about how to detax your retirement. Yes, just like we want to detox our lives from harmful substances, we want to get those taxes out of our retirement because, again, as we always say, success in retirement is not about how much you have, it's about how much you get to keep, and taxes are one of the biggest threats to folks keeping their hard-earned money, right?
Well said. That's exactly what it boils down to. If we have the ability to take advantage of some tax breaks while we're building our wealth, then now we have to understand the other side of that coin where we have to start taking distributions, and now we're going to pay taxes every time we take a withdrawal.
For sure. Well, just like any good detox requires a good detox plan, we want to unveil the detax plan,
yes,
right?
That's good.
And before the break, I mentioned this awesome resource that you've created that our viewers can access. So we're going to put this website for you on the bottom of your screen. Walk us through and explain why you've created this resource and what folks are going to be able to glean from utilizing it. You
know, it's to the point of what we've been making here on many, many episodes prior even to today, talking about how so many people are not really aware of what this tax bill is going to look like. So I'm just so honored to be able to share this tax calculator because our team put this together for us. And it really what it's designed to do is just like you said earlier, to create awareness, right? It's not something to be fearful of. It's just say, look, okay, if I have X amount of dollars in my IRA account and I'm X age and I need this income from this account,
right.
Now all of a sudden we have to pay the IRS their share. What does that look like and how does it factor into Social Security, maybe our investment income, maybe pension? It all plays together, and sometimes you can have this tax snowball that'll catch us off guard. So that's why we're excited to share the calculator with everybody today.
Awesome. Well, let's walk them through it, shall
Perfect.
we?
Yeah,
all right. So here's what we encourage you to do. We know your smartphone is sitting right there. You can access this retirement tax bill calculator in one of two ways. You can simply visit retirementtaxreview.com or click that QR code that you see there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And here is what you're going to see. This landing page will ask you for some basic information. You'll put in your name, the email address that you want your complimentary report sent to. You'll also put in your current age, which is important, as you mentioned, Tim, because it's trying to calculate your tax bill throughout the rest of your life, right? Then you're also going to put in how much money you have saved up in tax-deferred accounts. Now, for you, that could be a traditional 401k, 403b, a traditional IRA, things of that nature. And then you'll notice that there's two little sliders for you at the bottom of the screen that you can play around with. You can adjust your assumed tax liability. You can also adjust the assumed growth rate on that tax-deferred bucket of money. Then, once you click submit, two things are going to happen. First, you're going to see side by side the difference between the government's tax plan for you there on the left, if you do nothing, versus how much less you could pay in tax there on the right-hand side if you enact some of these tax saving strategies that we're going to be talking about throughout the rest of today's show. But then you're also going to receive a complimentary 4-page report emailed to you. Here's a screenshot of one page of that report that will show you the analysis, the breakdown of your numbers. And there again, the difference between the left and the right, Tim, it blows me away. For this example, this person had $500,000, $500,000 saved up, assumed tax liability 22%, assumed growth rate of 6%. Look at the difference. It's a difference of paying over $700,000 if they follow the government's plan for them in taxes versus only $110,000. That you can't unsee that once you've seen it.
That's exactly right. And that's why this calculator is just helping so many people. I mean, we see our numbers. We're talking to people who are taking the time to go to that website, provide the information. I love the fact that they get to provide some inputs.
Yes.
What do you think your taxes are going to do in retirement? Don't take anybody's word for it. Well, taxes are going to be lower. How do you know? Taxes are going to be higher. How do you know?
You can play around with it. You can see what the difference would be, right?
That's exactly right. And I've seen multiple reports come in.
Yes.
What if my taxes are a little bit lower? What does that look like? Great. What if they're the opposite way?
Yep.
Because when we were talking about the Revenue Act being passed in 1978, look where we're at today. The highest tax bracket in 1978, as we said, was 70%.
Right.
As of 2025, it's 37%. But what's the other side of the coin? Less than $1 trillion in a deficit in 1978 to almost $37 trillion today. Where do we think taxes are going to go?
Right.
They have to create revenue from somewhere. So if we have tax deferred accounts and we have the ability to utilize a calculator and get a report that's customized based upon our information, now we can say, okay, we've seen the numbers.
Yeah.
What's next?
Right.
How do we make that transition from the left side of that page to the right side of the page? How do we efficiently strategy with a strategy to move from one side to the other and try to pay as few as taxes as we can to the IRS?
I'm curious because I know you've had a lot of people using this tool and getting the report and then printing it off, coming in a meeting with you. What has been the common feedback? What are people saying when they actually see their numbers and see this potential tax hangover that they're headed into?
You know, I've heard the range from, wow, I had no idea. Can they really do this to us? I mean, it's just a whole gamut of responses. And that's my point, folks, is when we have taken advantage of a tax-deferred account, the silent partner all those years now all of a sudden becomes not so silent. So all we're simply saying is to you is, okay, based upon our current age and based upon, you know, an expected life expectancy, a certain type of age in retirement, this is what we can expect as we are forced to take income from it, as we take, you know, the RMDs, maybe reinvest those dollars, but also too when we pass away and leave those dollars behind. The IRS doesn't just go away.
Right.
Just because the IRA owner passes away doesn't mean the IRS leaves. They'll latch themselves right onto that IRA account and go right to the next one. And all of a sudden, and we're starting to see that already now. We're starting to see the great wealth transfer. We've talked about that before.
Yes.
Now we're starting to see this wealth transfer already, and when we can utilize a calculator like this, I think it really creates more awareness, and I think hopefully it creates the urgency for us to sit down and let's talk through these numbers and let's set up that plan and get you on the other side of that page and reduce our tax liability in retirement.
Right, and what that requires, just like you need a solid plan in place if you're trying to detox your life from harmful substances, you need a solid plan in place to get those taxes out of your retirement. So I'm curious, what are some of the strategies once folks have the awareness, right, and they understand, okay, there's a problem here, right?
Yeah.
Again, if you're just tuning in and joining us, today we're talking about how to detox your retirement, and if you want to see what your potential tax bill might be in retirement, we encourage you to visit this free resource, retirementtaxreview.com, or you can click that QR code. Instantly, you're going to be able to see side by side the difference between the government's tax plan for you if you do nothing versus how much less you could pay in tax if you enact some of these tax saving strategies. So I know we could spend hours talking through these strategies, but if you had to narrow it down and just kind of give viewers an understanding of the kinds of things you're able to do with folks to help them detax their retirements, what does that look like?
You know, I think there's 4 key points that we always look at. Roth conversions. First and foremost, right? We've been talking about the tax-deferred account for the majority of the conversation. Well, let's not leave our good friend, the tax-free account, out of the equation either, out of the conversation either, right? Because of the fact that if we can convert those dollars out of that forever taxed bucket and get them into the tax-free bucket, obviously we have to pay the IRS a portion of that transition. So we talk through that. Does a Roth conversion make sense? Yes or no? I think the next one, the most important fact of the entire plan is a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy, right? Just having a pile of statements is not really an income plan.
Right.
Yes, we might be taking some withdrawals from this account or this account or this account, but we will help clients with that written financial plan to say, look, you know you need income for retirement. That's what retirement's all about. Your ROI in retirement is reliability of income. We've established that fact. Now let's go one step further and now create a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy. So that's a very, very important key.
Yes.
The next thing is, okay, so if we do have some dollars that are in that other bucket of money, known as taxable buckets, right? We have taken after-tax dollars, we've invested the dollars, and maybe we have a joint account with our spouse, or maybe we have an account at Schwab and we're investing in stocks, maybe some bonds, some mutual funds, whatever. As those account values increase because of positive market performance, and maybe we want to sell something, we're going to pay taxes, not ordinary income taxes, but we'll pay capital gains taxes on that gain.
Right.
But there's also a way we can do what we call tax loss harvesting. You know, so for example, maybe one of our investments maybe is somewhat of a dog, if you will. It's not really doing well and it's down, but maybe we want to change the portfolio a little bit. We can maybe leverage some taxes by doing some tax loss harvesting on maybe an account that's down in value, if you will. And the last one, we're going to touch on this briefly because we're going to do an entire show in the coming weeks on this. We're going to talk about qualified charitable distributions. High-level explanation, it allows you to take a specific dollar amount out of your tax-deferred IRA and send it directly to a non-for-profit charity, which fulfills your RMD, but it does not create a taxable event.
Which is such an awesome win-win for you as the taxpayer, not having to pay that tax, and for the charity who then gets the full amount of the money, right?
That's exactly right. It's a great strategy. We just love talking about it and see if it's a good fit in the overall plan.
Awesome. Well, clearly there's lots of strategies that can come into play to help folks de-tax their retirements. What would be your encouragement to someone who's probably visited the site retirementtaxreview.com while we've been talking, and all of a sudden they're having that moment of, oh shoot, there's a problem here, I need some help.
Yep. Yeah, and definitely take advantage of the calculator. That's why it's there, right? And so once you've got your report, because again, like Kristen said, you'll see the summary and then the detailed report will be emailed to us. As soon as you have that, take the next step. Pick up the phone. Talk to our team. We'd love to sit down with you. They'll put you on our calendar at a time that makes sense for your availability, and let's utilize that tax calculator report as the foundation for the conversation so we can create a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy for you in retirement.
Wonderful. Tim, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, again, having this awareness is so crucial, but that's just the first step. We encourage you. The real way that Tim and the team are going to be able to help and serve you is by you coming in and sitting down and having them build you your very own de-tax plan for your retirement as part of a comprehensive, holistic, written financial plan. And it's complimentary. So we encourage you to claim yours by calling 888-992-7829. Or you're welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. When we come back, Tim is going to be sharing some real-life success stories of folks he has walked through these strategies with to help them de-tax their retirement. Stay with us to hear those success stories right after this.
Being independent means that I don't have a boss to answer to, which is very, very empowering. My bosses are my clients. So that way, because I'm independent, I have the ability to focus more on what the client's looking for and going and finding that company to kind of create those ideal individualized retirement income plans. When you transition into retirement, you're going to go through a second phase of life. You've never gone in there before, but you don't have to walk that journey by yourself. We will walk hand in hand at the pace that's set by the client. We take a very holistic, high-level approach to the overall plan for a client, but we break it down on their household level, case by case, customized for exactly what they're looking to do. And that's how we truly, I think that's how we separate ourselves in the industry. Did you ever think your own retirement would be shared with our government? It's true. Your traditional 401k, IRA, pension, or similar retirement accounts are in partnership with the IRS. Simply put, they want their tax dollars and you have them. With our latest tax calculator, you can plug in your own number while sitting at home. To find out what your future tax liability might be, scan the QR code or go to retirementtaxreview.com.
Welcome back to Income is the Outcome, where today Tim and I have been discussing how to detax your retirement. And if you're just joining us, we want to make sure that you utilize this free resource that Tim has prepared for you. You can actually access it right now to see what your potential tax bill might be in retirement. So visit retirementtaxreview.com or click that QR code. It'll ask you some basic information, questions, and you'll get a complimentary 4-page report emailed directly to you with the breakdown of your numbers. And Tim, as we've already said on today's show, once folks see those numbers side by side, they're a lot more motivated to take action because it's clear that you're headed into retirement with a potential tax hangover. But we don't leave people there. We like to provide solutions
Yes.
and strategies, right? So I'd love for you to share with our viewers some real life success stories of folks who've used this report, come in and met with you, and then you've been able to put together a plan to help them reduce the taxes in their retirement.
Absolutely, be happy to. And in fact, the one that comes to mind, the most recent one, is they did exactly that. Watched the show, printed out the calculator, gave us a call, and I mean, it was so much fun on the phone call as we were setting up the appointment. We're like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. We have got to see you now. I'm like, okay, let's get it on the calendar. I mean, it really truly created that sense of urgency. And for their specific situation, we were able to be a little bit more aggressive with the tax plan because they hadn't turned on Social Security yet. And I think that's a key point. Even if you already have, that doesn't mean we can't talk through that. My whole point is, we want to be very strategic with this whole process because we've talked about this before, Kristen. When we get to the age of 59 and a half up until our RMD age, that is that sweet spot where we can really do some aggressive RMD planning and say, look, we don't have to turn them on yet, but we know that age is quickly approaching. So why not be proactive with that plan and say, look, okay, if this is where we're currently at, whether we're working or not working, whether we've turned on Social Security or haven't turned it on yet, let's look at that overall tax liability. Come up with a plan that says, okay, if we need to create some income for retirement, how do we create the most tax efficient retirement income for us? So it gives us the opportunity to have that conversation just like we did with that current client and say, okay, here was your written, your complimentary written financial plan. And inside of that, we showed them exactly how we were going to start doing some Roth conversions each year. Now, again, the perfect thing about that is we've got the plan big picture. Right. So we can see here we are in current year, but we also kind of see years down the road. That doesn't mean it's a set it and forget it. We will go back and review that plan again because look what can change. What just recently changed out of Washington, D.C., the one big beautiful bill. That changed some other rules as well. So in other words, we always want to have the plan that we can review and keep it fluid. But for this particular client, I tell you what a joy that was. I mean, to be able to take them from that left side of the page, the government plan for them, and make that transition to the other side of the page. Because what was really neat about it, Kristen, was what they said back to me. And they said, we're probably not going to spend all this money down, so when we're doing this, it's going to benefit our kids too, isn't it? And what a joy that was because they understood. When those dollars reside in a tax-free account, it's going to protect and provide income for them, tax-free, but it also, whatever's left over, can provide tax-free legacy dollars for their kids and grandkids.
And how cool that they were able to have the foresight to, once they got that report, to take the action now and the ramifications that that's going to have in such a positive way, the legacy that they're going to pass on, right?
That's exactly right. We've heard that adage, what we do today can impact tomorrow. So let's sit down, let's have that conversation, let's understand how you can benefit today from a retirement tax calculator and ultimately create more tax-free income for your family.
Wonderful. Tim, thank you so much. What an informative and helpful episode. And thank you to you for joining us today. We encourage you to reach out. Again, we know this might be new to you. It's not new to Tim and the team, and they would love to help and serve you. 888-992-7829 is that number to call. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next time here on Income is the Outcome.